Oh, so this is interesting. So the thing that I actually commented on was about Lord of the Rings, and it was about Jessie gender.
Oh no!
Something she had said.
No.
It's
I know what this is.
super awful. It's not super awful. But
Has she been? I haven't followed her for a while. Has she been doing content about Rings of Power?
Yeah.
Well, let's do the. I mean, she covers Rings of Power, but like, so she said,
This is the offending tweet, as it were.
Apparently, it was about this is actually a response to a critical drinker thing, or something. So.
Sure.
Yeah, because no one ever shipped anyone ever in Lord of the Rings before. Anyways, here's two boys just being straight. And then, Vara dipshit here who needs to learn how to wear glasses properly. Just, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yes, all this stuff may be true, but do you think some of those dudes were not fucking each other? Because they were. In World War One.
And like, also, I actually made a video about this on my channel years ago when I was much worse at making videos than I am right now, if you can believe that, about this very subject, because it was in the discourse at the time. And if you are someone who wants to see deep, intimate, emotional, intimate relationships between cisgendered straight men treated with respect, then homophobia is your enemy.
Creating more problems by projecting sexuality onto everything.
There is something of a valid point here. I too have often felt that the impulse to label everything, every display of emotional intimacy between same-sex characters in a work of fiction, the rush to label that as gay immediately, I confess, felt that does make it harder sometimes for straight people like me to have to indulge in and publicly express emotionally intimate friendships with other men. But who's the enemy here? The enemy is not gay people. The enemy is homophobia. If you want a world in which it is acceptable and safe for straight men to have emotionally intimate relationships with other men, relationships that include public displays of affection such as touching, hair stroking, kissing, and so forth, and you don't want that to be read as immediately gay and met with the potential for violence, then you should be standing in solidarity with queer people, not blaming them for the culture that they didn't create. The problem here is homophobia. The problem here is queer phobia. It's not queerness. The problem is not injecting a queer reading into a text that wasn't intended to have it. The problem is that you see yourself as antagonistic to queer people rather than as an ally. And as long as that is the case, you will never have a world in which it's safe for straight men to express their deep love for their friends in physical ways without being confronted by the threat of violence. You can't have that world if you're going to consider queer people the enemy.
Not be when you see jokes like that, because that's obviously a joke by Jessie Gender. Although fans do ship Sam and Frodo, but
it's a joke because this ship is as old as dirt.
And also, even if it was not definitely, I don't think it was written that way. I don't think it was meant to be that at all. But like, if you get that read from it, that's okay too.
That's okay too.
Like, yes, there's a really fascinating article out there that I reference in my ancient video about queer readings of Lord of the Rings and how Tolkien almost certainly would have been aware of them.
Yeah.
Because he, number one, he served in World War I in the trenches, and he had to have been well aware that this kind of thing was going on. Yeah. And number two, he was supportive of gay writers in his circle and gave them good reviews and tried to increase their visibility. So,
are you telling me Tolkien was an ally?
I don't. That's not for me to decide.
It's close to one as probably there was back then.
Right.
I mean, more so than Lovecraft. We can say that for sure.
That's a low bar. That's damning him with faint praise.
But yeah, when someone like Vera Dark comes to try and defend positive portrayals of physical intimacy between straight men, she should not be attacking queer people who are shipping these relationships.
No.
She should be an ally with them and recognize that The enemy is homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she just can't see it very well because her glasses aren't on right.
Well,
but
like, yeah, and like, again, this is like, she claims to be some kind of like fan, like some true fan TM bullshit, and like, man, even if your introduction to Lord of the Rings was the movies, that means you got into Lord of the Rings from that. That means you knew about the shipping between these two for 20 years now.
Right. And if you actually read the book, which I know Veradark probably hasn't, you can see why this ship became a thing, because the way Tolkien describes physical male intimacy in that book is way more physical and way more intimate than what we saw in the movies.
Yeah.
There.
And
And I can say, as a straight person who read Lord of the Rings multiple times, that after I had engaged with queer people and queer readings of texts and paid attention to and truly listened to my queer friends, when I went back and reread The Lord of the Rings with the understanding that many queer people saw themselves in the relationship between Sam and Frodo, it added new layers of depth and meaning to my own reading, and I was able to enjoy the book in a whole new way. I was able to experience literature as an empathy technology, which is basically what literature is and why literature is a kind of magic. So all of this blathering on about what Tolkien intended, what Tolkien meant to say, is really beside the point. It does not invalidate a reading of Frodo and Sam as queer, and it does not even invalidate the claim that Tolkien put that in there, whether he meant to or not. It's not simply somebody inserting their own agenda into the Lord of the Rings. It is someone with a perspective that you don't share, that doesn't reflect your lived experience, who is uncovering a meaning and a thread in the text that has always been there, and you were just not capable of noticing it because you didn't have the right frame of reference. And that's okay. No one is saying you're bad for not doing that. You couldn't help it. None of us can.
And it's downright, dripping with gayness in the movies. But like, no, so, and then right here, like where the way she phrases this, they died in another man's arms because they had no one else. That's not why. It's because they wanted, that's who they would want to be holding them when they died. Not because they just, I guess you'll do.
Right. And like, when you're dying, when you're at the end, that someone is there for you is what matters to you in those last moments before you cease to be.
And someone that you have deep, intimate bonds with, which is what part of what Tolkien was writing about.
Right.
One of the themes in his book was the intimacy forged between men in times of war, cisgendered.
Now let's zoom out and see some real stupid shit.
Oh no.
Okay.
It gets dumber.
So someone posted, do you ever notice how the Twitter mob always act like the only ones who oppose their ideology are straight white men, ignoring the many people who aren't white or male? As if that really even addresses this at all?
No, the Twitter mob is Nazis, 1. 2, the people who oppose Jessie gender are homophobes and transphobes.
Yes.
Being straight, and male has nothing to do with that. Just being a weak-ass homophobe is what has to do with it. Sorry.
Well, it does correlate with being a straight, cisgendered man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap there.
There's some overlap.
But it's not a necessary cause.
No.
Yeah.